Those are the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. This is episode number 115. If you are out there live in the chat, please say hello. We don't know that you're out there if you don't say anything. And if you're watching this in replay or listening to it in podcast, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the podcast. We hope we don't make you any dumber than you already are. Hopefully we educate you. Hopefully we, more importantly, have a little bit of fun. We are live as always on YouTube and simulcasting as always over on GunChannels.com. And if you're not familiar with GunChannels.com, well, we really can't help you anymore. So just go check out GunChannels.com. The water is warm. We try not to pee in the water a whole lot. We don't bite very often. And there's always some good conversation going over there. So if you're new to the gun community or just looking for some people that are like-minded and want to have a discussion about anything firearm related, come on over there. We want to say a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Sportsman's Guide. And guys, if you are in the need of anything for hiking or camping or fishing, obviously firearms, ammunition, go check out Sportsman's Guide. They've got some crazy good sales going on right now for the holiday season. So I'm going to say thank you to them as well. Tonight, we are going to be talking about customizing your guns. And the reason why I brought this up is I was reading an article yesterday that was talking about that this past weekend had the second largest amount of 4473s ever go through, and a lot of people buying guns, which is wonderful. I hope they're not buying them because they think that guns are going away. I just hope they're just buying guns. But one of the topics that they were talking to is some of the people that they were talking to were saying that a lot of young 20s, mid 20s people were coming in. Even some 19 and 20-year-olds were coming in, and they were mentioning that they wanted to buy a gun that they play Call of Duty or whatever online games they play. And I thought that was interesting because, you know, we talk about the gaming world and all that. And I think pretty much anything we can do to bring people in is great. And I know that, you know, we got some, a friend of ours, Kyle, is going to be coming here. He was talking about Grand Thumb, had something out there. But before we get going, let's bring in our panel and say hello. From Oklahoma, we have the gun snob himself. What's up, man? How you doing?
Sorry.
There you go.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, man. And you know, we'll get to you a little bit, but we know that you do a lot of customization, but you actually do a lot of Cerakoting for people and all that. And I think that that's something that people are kind of getting back into, and kind of, especially with maybe the younger generation, they want to kind of paint their guns like they do online or whatever. And I don't have anything to Cerakote. I've never done it before, but I thought you might want to bring some knowledge about Cerakoting in, because I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Cool.
And from Texas, we have the tactical virus. I mean, Leprechaun himself. What's up, Clover?
Howdy ho. What's up?
What's up? How you doing, man?
I'm well. Customizing. That's interesting.
Customizing. I think you might. I don't know. You might have something.
It's not very fuddish to customize stuff.
It's saying. Not very fuddish, but you know, everyone's got to be a part of it anyway, so it's all good. And I got a good friend of mine from Colorado with Chitin Defense. We got Kyle. What's going on, Kyle? You are muted. Me unmute you. There you go.
Oh, all right. Yeah, not much. It's good to be on, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know that you were talking pre-show about maybe a Grand Thumb or something. Had something about the kids coming to the gun community via online gaming or whatever. And you know, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, we should accept as many people as want to take a part of this great hobby and really just culture ours. There's, you know, sometimes it feels like the pro-gun voices out there being drowned out by all the moaning that's done by Moms Demand and all these other Bloomberg-funded groups. But, you know, the more that we can take that can see that this is a beneficial and just great hobby and culture to have, the better, I think.
I agree. You guys, Snob, Clover, what are your thoughts about bringing kids in via games? Is that, I mean, obviously, I think we will agree that it's probably a positive, but is this going to change what the gun community is when you start bringing in people that may buy guns for a specific reason but aren't familiar with our lifestyle or culture or anything?
Yeah, I think it certainly will. I think it has, and I think it will continue to do that. It'll continue to, let's not say change, let's use the word evolve, right? I mean, if you had people that, Wild West days or whatever, that, weren't looking at and into and thinking ahead and whatever, then the advent or invent or whatever of, the semi-auto may not have come about. And, we're going to talk about customizations, right? A lot of the different, the development of Cerakotes, Duracoats, different finishes and stuff like that is because people want something a little bit different, right? For whatever reason that might be. So, yeah, those changes, those generational changes and stuff like that. There's those of us out there that still love single action Colt revolvers and things like that, and we love them for the beauty and the historical value. But we also love the modern stuff as well, the plastic polygons.
Yeah, I you know me, I'm not footish at all. I am much more into the modern guns and rifles and the tactical stuff, if you will.
You appreciate a good revolver. You appreciate beauty and the innovation and all of that.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. It's just not my thing. Like you said, there are people. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different things that we like. So,
you never know. That's a good point that you make, because you never know. I mean, you may get a kid that comes into, and I say kid if we're talking 18 plus or whatever, but you get a kid that comes into the game with something from Call of Duty or whatever those video games are. I don't play them, and that maybe the AR platform or the something is their very first firearm. But while they're there and they're in the gun shop and they become a part of the culture and the community, then they start seeing lever actions, and they start seeing, maybe they get into old school black powder. You never really know where they're going to go. So just because they're influenced by a video game, I think it's important to note that we've got a very diverse selection of firearms out there. I mean, it literally runs the gamut. So who knows where they'll end up by the time it's said and done.
We've also got to remember now that Red Dead Redemption and all those Western video games are hugely popular too. So
yeah. And if you like Modern Warfare, I've been playing a lot of Modern Warfare lately. Not a lot. I mean, I play it a few nights a week for about an hour or so with my daughter and all that, and every now and then. But the cool thing about Modern Warfare is they'll have assault rifles. Even what's so funny is they call them assault rifles on the video game. It's kind of funny, but it is what it is. But you have some submachines, some light machines. You'll have sniper rifles. You have shotguns. You have pistols. So the game, I think itself, is introducing a new generation of people that might not be gun people, but they're introducing different types of guns to people that might not know what they are. And the interesting thing is I met a kid a week or so ago. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, because last week was Thanksgiving. A couple weeks ago on the range, and I was over on the rifle range and having some fun shooting some stuff. And he was out there with his dad, and he was talking about he wanted to shoot his dad's sniper rifle, and it was basically a Savage 308, but he wanted to shoot his dad's sniper because that's all he knew. It looked like a sniper rifle on Call of Duty. And it was so funny because he plays Call of Duty, so he hits the button to reload it, so he thinks that he knows how to manipulate everything. And it's kind of funny, but at least he's trying, and at least he's out there with his dad. That maybe prior to playing Call of Duty or whatever they're playing, he wouldn't have ever thought about going to the range. So I think it's kind of cool. And we all know that I got my daughter a gun for Christmas, and it's it's built on a 22. But it's the P90 knockoff, and I muted you. Sorry. What were you saying, Kyle?
I was saying that she showed me it's that ZK22 chassis that you got her for the 1022. It's she was gushing over the thing when I was texting her about it, and I think she's almost exclusively using the P90 in Modern Warfare. because of her love of that thing. So good on you.
Well, it was one of those things. I was going to get her an AR, and I was going to, once again, we're going to talk about customized, but I was going to get her first AR. It was hers. She has access to all of mine, and she can shoot them whenever she wants. But I wanted to get her first AR and, put them in the colors that she likes and all that. And we were at Wanamaker in Tulsa, and me and Clover were walking around, and it caught my eye, and I was like, that a P90? And it was obviously built on the Ruger 1022, but it's pretty cool. And I was like, man, you could go shoot 1,000 rounds of that for nothing and just have a really good time with it. And so I got that for instead, and she's going to love that. I can get her an AR anytime she wants, but I didn't, that ZK22 they stopped making it a while ago. So they're hard to come by. So, and I got a smoking deal on it. So it is what it is. But, I want to bring Snob in real quick, and let's kind of start talking about Cerakoting. And once again, I've never Cerakoted anything. I have a bunch of friends that have a bunch of stuff Cerakoted, but you do Cerakoting. For someone who's interested in doing a Cerakoting, how detailed of a job? I mean, is it really is it kind of like a tattoo artist almost, where whatever the mind can think of, you could probably do on a gun?
Well, some people can. I'm not that talented, but yeah.
But the idea of it, you can really pretty much do what you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I mean, anything. I've done some stencil work, and I really like the battle worn just because it's really easy to do. That's probably my favorite to do now.
Yeah.
I just finished doing my Polymer 80 the other day.
I think I talked to you a little bit while ago, and I was going to try to bring one of the ARs up to Tulsa, and I forgot about it, but I was really kind of wanting maybe you do a battle worn thing on that, which would be kind of cool. And I like the battle worn also. I do like the American flag kind of stuff. That's pretty cool. But I like kind of that battle worn. And Kyle and Clover, do you guys have anything that you have Cerakoted? I know Clover, you just got done re-Cerakoting one of your rifles.
Well, it wasn't really a re-Cerakote as much as it was I had to Cerakote, but
that's true.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I mean, I certainly helped with the process, but that was 10-8 Tactical here, a local place that does a great job. Really good at what they do. And there's a lot of guys out there that do the Cerakote, as well as the Hydro Dip and Duracoat and other things, as far as, finish work and stuff like that do a really good job. But yeah, that's not my first foray, really. Wasn't my first foray into Cerakote. I mean, I'm a long time user of stuff like Duracoat, for example, like the air dry stuff. And what is it? I can't even think now. It's been so long since I even broke the cans out of the cabinet, but the stuff that I think Brownell sells, the coat, gun coat, I think it is, stuff, pretty good stuff. So there is some stuff out there if you're novice, and if it's when we think about that firearms, you've got to look at, what are they going to be used for, right? And if something that's going to be drug around in the woods, get really heavy use and stuff like that, then, I don't know. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of spending a lot of money to get a really high grade, coating or something like that on it, because, it's just going to be beat around anyway. So a lot of times doing it yourself is a cheaper option. Not only is the experience of you being able to tear that firearm down and strip it and coat it and do everything you need to do. They make it fairly easy to do with some of the products that are on the market now. And, you can always redo that. So, you may, go a year with one color and then change it over to something else. But yeah, I've done stuff years ago, from parkerizing to rust bluing to, been involved in that, had buddies that did it and allowed me to use their equipment and kind of walk me through it. So, fun process, but honestly, a lot of work, and I'm sure Snob will attest to that. A lot of work and a lot of tedious work when you talk about having to tear those firearms down.
Well, that's something that goes into it also that people don't think about is like you said, the bluing process. That's a customized part of a firearm. If you want to do some custom bluing and all that, it's not just paint. It's not just Cerakoting and all that. There's a whole lot of things that you can do.
And so blue is not necessarily blue. A lot of people, they think blue and they think, what do they think? They're really dark. They think they're really dark blue, almost black. And that can range anywhere from a brown to a silver to depending on
that oil sheen looking bluing that I've seen on so many guns.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle, you've got so many things that you've been working on customizing. I would say pretty much everything that you have is custom, is it not?
Most of the things that I have are. So I got rid of that AR that I Cerakoted in that splinter camo with the tungsten, burnt bronze, and black. Turned out gorgeous, but I had to make some room in my collection, free up money to keep developing the bison, and here we are with that. But no, I've had Cerakoted, I've had things Duracoated, I've had things titanium nitride surface treated, which gives you that Gucci gold look. You've got ferritic nitrocarburization, or QPQ, which is a surface treatment as well. And then for most aluminum receiver guns like the ARs, you can have varying shades, colors, and sheens for your Type 3 mil-spec anodizing.
And so it's not necessarily about changing colors and making it flashy. It's just about maybe a contrast of using grays and blacks to create shadows or all that. I mean, that's all part of it, you know?
Yeah, you can have that application for whatever you're using it for, whatever your terrain or your surrounding area is. If you want to make it blend in, make yourself blend in, make sure your gear matches your platform. But there's also people who just want to be flashy and kind of use these platforms like in the paint and the coloring that they use is like an extension of themselves, like they would with tattoos. You know, it's up to you. It's your property.
You need to break out the high point.
Oh,
around.
Hold on.
Flashy. He did a high point that is actually it's the most beautifully disgusting thing you've ever seen.
I will not be impressed unless it is high.
If it's a high point, I mean, how could you really mess it up? You know, so
I mean that adds value to a high point, whereas in most other firearms it decreases the value.
So look at the work he did on that.
The look on his face is priceless.
He doesn't really know what to think of it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's clown puke.
Like you said, can you really fuck up a high point? I don't think you can. So, you know.
I don't know. That was a lot of energy to do that for nothing.
Right.
A lot of autism, I think.
Yeah. I do want to bring up a comment that was made going back previously. I don't mean to cover up Kyle and Clover Biome for a second.
Oh, I'm not that pretty anyway.
Right. Been around a long time. These gamers wanting a real platform to emulate what they play with is a dangerous path without the same pounding. We got safety. They need hands-on learning. Well, obviously, we're not sitting there saying, hey, you know, come to the gun community and go to the range and just start shooting. What we're trying to say, at least I'm trying to say, I don't want to speak for any of the guys here, but what I'm trying to say is bringing more people to our community and our way of life and our culture that previously would have never done that. That's only strengthening us. And yes, if they do come to us, then yes, we have the responsibility as gun owners and responsible gun owners to, if we see them at the range and all that, and they're doing something crazy, bring something up and say, hey, look, I appreciate the fact that you're out here and you're learning, but let's try to do this a safe and right way, because they don't know. And so instead of just shunning them, saying because they don't know and because they're unsafe, it doesn't mean they're never going to be safe. It just means they just don't know. They've never been around it. So if you know someone out there that is new to the community, regardless if they're a gamer or not, it is our responsibility to try to help them along the way and show them the right way of doing things. But it is what it is.
Well, and there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, we all have to start somewhere. Right. Mm-hmm. For some of us, we started out of the womb, quite literally. You know, for others, we were in our 20s. For others, I think Gizzard Gary won't mind me throwing him under the bus, but he very much later in life, right?
Yeah, he was like in his 40s or something.
Yeah, exactly. And there was another point I was going to make to that too, that had to do with the safety. And what was it? Silence for a minute.
I got one for you. While you're thinking of that, you usually can't step foot on a range without being harassed by a range safety officer. Most ranges, at least indoor ranges out here in Colorado and that I've been to back home in Louisiana, you have to undergo and at least sit through a safety talk with the range owners or anybody who's operating it in order to even be able to go out there. So you have that basic exposure. And I think really that's I don't want to say that that's all you need, because I'm a really big proponent of not spending your money on $3,000 guns and no money on training. But, being able to be safe with a firearm really boils down to those 4 basic rules, especially in most everyday range situations.
Yeah, it does. I want to say Gary out there said he bought his first handgun at the age of 55.
Yep, I knew it was later on in life.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's never
let's
too
go
late.
back- It's never too late. Let's go back to Snob for a second and talk about the Cerakoting, because I think Clover brought up a really nice point about what you plan on doing with it. And is if it's going to be a rugged hunting outdoors use all, is Cerakoting for those? Like I said, I'm kind of ignorant about it. I've never done one. Is Cerakoting something that, how long would it last?
Cerakote's really durable. I mean, this is my carry gun, and or one of my carry guns, and it's been Cerakoted for 3 years this way, 2 or 3 years. I mean, you can see the holster wear on the side of the slide and stuff and on the front,
Right.
but it holds up just as well as the factory finish did really on it.
Okay. So they're going to be
It gets shiny more than anything.
A hunting rifle.
Well, one thing I figured out about it after playing with it for a few years is the best thing you can do is make it shinier from the start, as long as you don't mind it being a little shinier. If you mix extra hardener in it, it is tougher by far.
Sorry. Booger Dog out there says his kid started at age 5 with an accurate Daisy BB gun. Still have it. It's trained 2 generations now. Daughter hunted in stands at 10 and is now a concealed carry mom. I love that. It's awesome. I think everyone knows my story. I never really shot guns, aside from the occasional, at my buddy's ranch or whatever growing up, but I never shot guns until I joined the Marine Corps. And that was kind of an eye-opening experience. I'm not going to lie. I was a little scared when they just issue like this M16A2 to you. Like, here you go. Memorize the serial number and just wait till you get to shoot. I'm like, okay, I've never shot a gun before. And actually, ironically, in the Marine Corps, I can't speak for anyone else, but in the Marine Corps, they actually like inexperienced shooters because they can kind of teach you their way. And the people that grew up hunting and grew up around firearms their whole life kind of get a little arrogant and think that they're better than they are. And they might be good hunters, but they're not necessarily good combat shooters. There's a huge difference between hunting and combat shooting. So, so that's one of my story. And I know Gary's out there was 55. Clover was out of the womb. I'm sure Snob and Kyle, you guys were probably pretty close out of the womb. But I'm probably the late bloomer here in the group, I guess.
Close out of the womb with what?
You're probably out of the womb with a gun in your hand, weren't you? You grew up with guns?
I had my first experience shooting when I was 7 with my dad, so pretty young.
Yeah. You've been carrying up at the ranch. You've been carrying probably your whole life, haven't you, Snob?
Pretty much. I mean, we've always had, every tractor or feed truck always had a gun somewhere in it, as long as I can remember.
Yeah. I want to bring Kyle in because Kyle does a lot of custom builds, and I know that you custom build a lot of stuff, but you also get inspired by guns and you build them on your own. And I know you're an engineer, so the engineer side of you kind of gets nerdy on that stuff.
Yeah, it's
one of the builds you're doing right now.
Well, you know about my PP19 Bison, however you want to say it, the reverse engineering I'm working on right now. And actually my love of that weapons platform came from video games. I'm ecstatic that it's in Modern Warfare, but
it's my backup. It's my secondary now. Yeah.
So this is a reverse engineered magazine. It's 3D printed housing with some original internals and some 3D printed internals, but they're holding up pretty well. And as far as like other custom builds, I built Laura her AR in 9mm here with the Stern Defense magazine adapter there. It's a pistol. There's the brace for all of you pains in the asses out there that want to report me to the ATF. And then my personal one that I'm working on finishing up now is a NATO contract, Sig Sturmgewehr 553 or 553. It's the updated variant of the 552, which is probably closer to the AK operating system. I think Brugger and Tomic did some engineering on the bolt system there and the gas system to make it operate better with the original 550, 551 op rod. But I want to keep it true to the NATO contract roots, which is why it's got the buffer tube on there for a brace, or once my once my Form 1 comes back a stock. So
there you go. And I we've been talking about the stamps and all that, but I think the Form 1s are only taking like 6 weeks now. When did you send it in?
yeah, the wait times went up just a little bit, but I'm sure that's probably just due to the amount of holiday purchases that are occurring right now. So
Also depends on we're seeing variances whether it's individual or trust as well. Trust takes a little more time now.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this: when you're talking about custom building something like that, and you held up your girlfriend's AR, and it's a 9mm adapter. So, what is the lower? Did you had to change out the barrel and all that? What kind of barrel or is it strictly the same barrel?
So the barrel is just such a pain to remove. You really want to just dedicate uppers to whatever caliber you're using. So It's a 9mm barrel, 9mm bolt, and then everything else is 5.56 except for the upper. I decided to go with one that's geared towards 9mm. It's a slick side. It's a quarter circle 10 upper that's made by Voltor. Charging handle's the same. I think this is 1/2 by 36 thread pitch, and the bolt is different as well, right?
Okay.
The lower is a 5.56 lower. It's Aero Precision. There's your little A there. The stern defense adapter is great. It sets in there with screws. You can use Loctite if you want. That's what I did. But your original magazine release holds it in. But even if you depress it, it's not going to make the adapter drop out. For the Glock magazines, your mag release is there. Everything else, your trigger, hammer, safety, all that, it's 5.56.
So something like that. They have getting feedback here. Hold on. Do they have adapters for different types of magazines? Is it Glock or Beretta or Smith & Wesson or what?
Yeah, I think that they have some SIG adapters. Outside of that, my knowledge is a little bit fuzzy. But I know that they do have other adapters. I believe they have a Beretta one, but you can't go wrong with Glock magazines. They're cheap. They're all over the place. That's why I went with that for hers, and she loves it. You know, for somebody who had trouble with my 5.56 AR when they were shooting it, she took to this like no other.
Yep. Stan's out there with us. Seth Palm would say hey to Stan. And Curtis out there wants to know, is it still about a year wait for individual for a silencer? Clover, you're kind of more up on the wait times. Do you know what the wait time for that is?
Well, yeah, a great point was made about Black Friday. So who knows moving forward? It depends on how much of that stuff was done, because there certainly was and always is some great deals on suppressors and stuff, you know, over the Black Friday weekend. But yeah, prior to that, I mean, I had a conversation Saturday and talked with a gentleman that did an individual on a suppressor. It was not a Form 1, it was a Form 4. And he was almost just about 6 months to the day, which was encouraging. I know Stan out there says he had got a buddy that got one back in about 8 months. So times were starting to get a little bit better on everything outside of Form 1s. Anyway, we're starting to get better prior to Black Friday. Now, I don't know, for the next few months, will it increase a little bit? It probably is going to, because it's not like they bring extra staff on or anything else. They have a very limited number of people that do all of that paperwork and do that stuff. And it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. If they're busy, then they just get inundated.
I do like Booger Dog's statement. I love this. He says they need to transfer all SBR suppressor to U.S. Postal Service. Simply as going in, swiping your ID, get approval online, pay the man, take your paperwork, no wait. PO has the manpower. That would be awesome to go to the post office and pick up your stamp.
I think there was just a bill that was presented that is aiming to take SBRs off of the registry. I think Firearms Policy Coalition just posted something about it.
It makes sense, and that's one of the things with the whole big push on braces. Braces really, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of braces. I'll do my SBRs all day long. I prefer to have an actual stock on my on my rifle. Now, granted, I've never bought a $400 or $500 brace and tried anything like that, but it's not the same to me. There's flex in it. It's just not the same. And so,
I'll say this about SB Tactical's braces. They've gotten better. They're at least not the original, this stupid. There you go. I mean, they're getting better. They're getting
it's
better.
something that could I deal with it? Yeah. Do I choose for $200 to deal with it? No. If I'm going to spend $150 on a brace, I'm going to go ahead and spend $50 and it gets a stamp. I mean, that's just that's the way I go about it. Everybody can do things their own way. I've had NFA stuff for years, so I'm already on the list. I'm already in a file, so it doesn't matter. If you're trying to avoid that, then by all means,
you're already going to be one of the first to go.
Right. Trying to avoid that, I mean, heck, put a brace on it and go. I get you. I feel you. But yeah, I mean, with what I'm saying is with the popularity of the braces, though, I will concede this, that it almost makes the SBR a moot point, that they probably should just remove them. It doesn't make any sense at this point.
No, it makes no sense. The only benefit to the brace right now that I see, the biggest benefit is traveling. Like if you're going to have a truck gun or something, you can throw a AR pistol in your car and carry it.
Well, I mean, and that'd be something that you had to consider is if that's going to be something that you are going to want to travel with and all that, then leave it a pistol. I mean, that's just, but the absolute just having it and wanting that 10.5-inch barrel. Yeah. I mean, I think we can all agree that the pistol is. I mean, it's turning into basically an SBR these days, especially with them now, acknowledging or at least saying that you can shoulder it. That might change next week, but as of right now, they're saying you can shoulder the brace and all that. So it is what it is. I want to bring Snob back in real quick and ask, when can I start going to custom builds? Aside from the accessorized, high points you have you started? Have you ever kind of done like a custom build with like an idea in mind of a paint job and optics and everything? Has that been something that you ever started from scratch with and said, let's do this?
Well, I kind of did that on my new Polymer 80 build I just did. I just kind of decided what I wanted to do whenever I started getting the parts and built it.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, I've built a bunch of ARs, but never really. I just kind of started building them, and whatever I found was what I ended up using.
So for someone out there that might be thinking about doing that, especially with the Polymer 80, from the time that you got all the parts in and you actually started the build till it was done with the Cerakoting and everything, about how long that process take?
Well, I built it, got it running, and then Cerakoted it. But, I mean, you could literally do it all in a day if you really wanted to.
If you wanted to. There you go. Let's see here. Trying to stand out there that says Spawn says, will I get my $400 back for my SBR stamps? No.
The government ever gave you money back?
Right.
I actually got a refund on the stamp once.
Oh, did you? What's the story?
I had a Brugger and Tomet TP9 that I was looking to form one into an SBR, and I had an opportunity to get the Bison kit, actually. And so I told them, hey, I don't need that stamp anymore. So what they did was they refunded me because I did a direct deposit. And they sent it back and they canceled the Form 1. So I may or may not be on a list. Who knows?
That's nice, though. That's
I've never heard of anyone doing that. So
first time I've ever heard a story like that, too. Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Well, we've kind of gotten away from the customizing, but I like the conversation. But let's kind of talk about stamps real quick. And for people out there that are wanting to know what it is, because there are people that are new to the community. When you're talking about NFA items and having to get tax stamps, we were talking about this maybe offline or something like that not too long ago, Clover. But people say, it's $200. But realize that since the 1930s, when a $200 tax stamp, $200 was a damn near a car back then. Right. So it was a definite burden to go get a stamp, 100 years ago. Now the $200, there's a reason why, in my opinion, there's a reason why that they haven't increased that rate. Is I think they realize that it's just it's bullshit to a certain extent, and they realize that all it is a tax. It's a way to make money. So if they keep the price low in today's standards of $200, I'm sure that they're making hand over fist money on tax stamps. Yes, it's a tax, and I'm not saying it should be, but understand it could be a lot worse. That could have gone up over the years with inflation and all that. It could be $2,000 right now for a stamp if they wanted to.
Well,
imagine being okay with a poll tax.
Right.
Well, let's not. I don't want to put this because I want to tread real softly when I'm saying this, but let's not fool ourselves into thinking that they couldn't go in with the stroke of a pen tomorrow and fix that.
One piece listening to this, so you don't have to worry about them hearing.
I'm just saying, one piece of leadway. They can constitutionally, legally, the whole NFA thing is out the window with that anyway, right? So ramification-wise, they've got full power and control to do that without any type of legislative action or anything else. They can adjust for inflation. The government has that capability built in, and so they could very easily do it. So when people argue having to register it, the whole NFA being unconstitutional, I'm not doing that. I'm going to put a pistol brace or whatever the case may be. Sure, I got you. Fine. I don't agree with that because I like SBRs and to me it's worth it. But I get sentiment when people say, "Oh, the $200 is too much to pay," which I had somebody, I was talking to them about suppressors just a couple of days ago, and that was one of the arguments they were making was, "Oh, I got to pay $200 extra for this." And I'm like, you don't want to be screaming that, because the more you scream that, the more people hear that, the more people go, "Oh, well, people won't buy this if the tax stamp's too high, so guess what we're going to do?" And there you sit. So be real careful about complaining about stuff sometimes, but look at it from a broader perspective.
That's what I'm saying is I think the $200 tax stamp, there's going to be the argument that they shouldn't be taxing us. I get that, and I don't want to argue that. But the fact is it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. $200
they shouldn't be taxing us, and that tax is too high is two different arguments is what I'm getting at.
Right. That's right. Absolutely. Speaking of which, we had yesterday, the Supreme Court heard the New York case about transporting your licensed guns to outside the city. And any of you guys kind of read up on what all took place in the Supreme Court yesterday? I thought it was interesting that it seems like there was a lot of people are frustrated. Apparently Kavanaugh and a couple others didn't even ask questions. I think people are getting really excited or pretty upset sometimes about the questions that were asked. It seems like, it seems like the liberals were the ones asking the questions. What do you guys take on what happened yesterday in the Supreme Court? Did you guys hear about anything?
Good luck figuring it out till they decide.
Right.
I've heard stuff both ways.
Yeah,
it's messy because of the way New York approached it, because New York knew they had their butt in a jam in a way, and so it was pretty much a slam dunk. And then so what they did is they went in and muddied the water really, really well.
They repealed the initial law that they wrote,
and then put the law on that they can't put it back.
Right. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. And they were talking about, I think apparently Ginsburg made a comment like, what are we even doing here? And this, that, and the other.
No, Ginsburg is against the new rule for a completely different purpose. And it's because she believes that the law makes it so that you need to have a gun at home and you need to have a gun at an off-site location stored where there's nobody there. So she's against it because she doesn't want somebody having two guns as opposed to one gun. I think Alito put it best, and one of the reasons why I love him is because he was talking to one of the New York's attorneys and asked him, "Does the Second Amendment only exist at home?"
That's correct.
I mean, they're going back and forth about whether they should dismiss it because the new rule isn't as draconian as the old rule. But the problem is that New York has the opportunity to come back at a later time when maybe the Supreme Court's not quite in our favor as Second Amendment enthusiasts and decide to just ram that down New Yorkers' throats.
Well, and the fact that, and Budget's right, they saying a lot of people think that they're going to moot the case, and the problem with not making a ruling at all is, like you said, it does open the doors for something. And if they're going to come out and hear the case, and I think that they're trying to, and the lawyers are trying to sit there and say, look, it's not just about transporting to a second home or wherever, going to a range outside the city. It's about, is this law even constitutional? And I think that that's why they wanted the Supreme Court to hear, because if they don't make a ruling on this at all, then in essence, they're telling everyone that we're not saying it's unconstitutional. So if you guys want to go ahead and do this elsewhere, you can. I think what the Second Amendment side of this saying is this in essence is, from the very beginning, is unconstitutional. So let's go ahead and strike this as saying it's unconstitutional, so that there aren't any threats of later bills and later laws coming down across the country, because that's a scary thing. Because if you say this is constitutional and saying that you can be fined and arrested or whatever for transporting, I think the example they used was stopping for a cup of coffee or seeing grandma or something like that, and you could be fined or whatever because you didn't make a direct line to point B.
You run out of gas, your car broke down. What are you talking about? I mean,
they can throw down a lot of shit on top of this.
Yeah, right.
I hear a lot of people that do say that they may moot it, but I don't think that they will, because they've had so many, the court has had so many opportunities to moot the case based on the motions that New York has made, and before it actually has gotten to this point. I think that they may rule on its merit. I
hope they do.
Maybe they talked about potentially mooting it, and they asked whether the old rule would come back, but they're hearing it.
Yeah, I think they've had so many opportunities. I agree. I think they've had so many opportunities. They could have thrown it out, dismissed it, whatever. That at this point, I don't know. Maybe they're laying groundwork for something down the road. Maybe they're trying to make a broader point. And I mean, we'll know once we get a ruling on it, and then what that, those rulings, how those rulings are written and what they say, we'll kind of know. But that happens a lot of times with these courts and with judges. Happened with, with Heller, for example, and some stuff like that is, when we got the ruling, the decision, when it comes down and the winning party writes that. I don't remember the terminology, but
assent or whatever.
The
dissent was the
opposition. Yeah.
No, yeah. I don't remember. But anyway, the winning side or whatever that writes their.
I eat crayons, bro.
So. But anyway, people know what I'm talking about. And a lot of times when they write that, if you followed the case and what's going on, you sort of get where things were going and why they asked questions they asked and different things. It's like, oh, they were building towards what they were going to put into this decision is what it was.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it comes down to, a lot of people are saying that Kavanaugh didn't ask, and I want to say 2 or 3 of them didn't ask any questions. Why would they?
Yeah,
them to ask. Yeah. They already know that this shit's unconstitutional, bro. You don't have to ask me questions because you can bring nothing to the conversation that I don't already know.
If you go into court and you have a well-written argument, everything is written out, right? It's by the law. It's cut and dry. There's no loopholes. There's really no argument anybody can make. Then the judge don't have to ask anything. He can look at it and go, this guy's totally in the right, 100%, and done, right? So just because they don't ask questions, that doesn't mean anything. And that can actually, asking questions can sometimes make things worse too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you give someone an opportunity to make a point that probably don't want to be made. And the secondly, I will say this is, and you brought it up earlier, I don't know if someone brought it, maybe it was Snob or someone, but the fact that they're hearing this is a positive thing. They're not going to hear this case because it is kind of leaning more conservative Republican side right now. They're not going to hear a case that they're going to come back and say that it's not like this is a new case. This has been going on. They could have heard it a year ago or 2 years ago, but they didn't. Now they're hearing it. There's a reason why they're hearing this now. And I think they're not only going to do something about this, I think they're going to make a ruling and say it's unconstitutional. But I think you're right, Clover. I think this is the first in a several series of steps of hearing several 2A related cases that I think that this could be a good thing. We were always happy when Kavanaugh got on because we knew that this was someone. But remember, we also talked about Kavanaugh is very big on precedent, and he might be more conservative, might be Republican, whatever, but he's big on precedent. And I think that when there's not precedent like this, maybe this is where they create the precedent, saying, "Look, now we've got it."
I think I agree with you, but I think too this is a very good opportunity to use the strict scrutiny that was brought forth in Heller. That's something that's been.
If they rule that this is the Second Amendment required to be looked at under strict scrutiny, there's going to be a lot of laws gone like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wherever they start.
Say, we're talking about opportunity. I'll shift gears and talk about another dynamic of this. That is, it's a good time to bring that up with all the different counties going to a sanctuary and all this other stuff. This is a prime example. You've got very little control over federal government, state government, certainly very little control over what the Supreme Court decides and so forth and so on. The most control you have is with your city council. Your freaking local, right there in your town, see them every day, city council. Vote good people in, vote bad people out, campaign, pound the pavement, do what you got to do. And crap like's going on with New York City right now in the Supreme Court. Guess what? That don't happen. You put a stop to it before it ever gets to that level.
Now, Kyle, I want to bring you in because you moved to Colorado a couple years ago now, and coming from Louisiana, where the culture, especially the gun culture, I would imagine it's completely different than it is in Colorado. So, explain to me what's happened in the last couple of years, and from your eyes, as far as are you more appreciative of your right? I mean, how is it in Colorado? I hear different stories from different people.
So I've been here since very early 2017, so almost 2 years really. So the gun culture in Louisiana is very strong, and I'll just be blunt. Here in Colorado, it's also very strong. Like this is a state that really likes its guns. I think the issue is just like most other places, you have folks that are in the city that are relatively sheltered. They have their emergency services right there. They don't, because you have a lot of transplants from states that tend to be more liberal or have more restrictive gun laws. Now, Colorado did pass I think its magazine cap restriction to 15 rounds in 2012, I believe. The thing is that they don't prosecute anybody for that. The police don't go after people for that unless it's a tack-on charge. Hell, there's a gun shop right down the road that still sells 30 plus rounds. They have Magpul D60s. I mean, they don't care. They don't enforce it. The police don't even care. When they decided to pass their red flag law, they had a ton of counties that decided to become Second Amendment sanctuaries. They're not going to give any of their resources to pursuing red flag laws. And as you've seen from examples in the past, people lose their lives over petty arguments. You get swatted at 2:00 in the morning, and it's like, well, you shouldn't have argued with your aunt over God knows what, like that guy in Maryland, I think was the case there. But Colorado decided to do that, and we'll see how that rolls. But I don't know. I'm waiting for the perfect storm with those red flag cases because I feel like that's another one that's probably going to wind up making it to the Supreme Court because that's a violation of your First, Second, Fourth Amendment rights. It's a lot of them.
Yep. Yeah, people forget the kids are really what they're going to come after you. But yeah, it's one of those things where when we talk about Supreme Court cases in general, I think we're going to start seeing some more. And I think that if you give them time and don't, like I said, I woke up this morning and was reading a lot online about the news. I don't watch the news anymore. I quit watching the news October 1st of 2018. So I read stuff online and the next morning and all that. And I knew that they were going to hear the case yesterday. So I wanted to kind of hear what was happening. And it was interesting because a lot of people on our side it was mixed reactions saying, well, what if they moot this? But guys, understand that they're hearing the case for a reason. I truly don't believe that they're going to go through because the idea of a Supreme Court case is much different. It's not like it goes to a circuit court or your county court. This is a whole, there are attorneys that specify only for Supreme Court. It's a different way of doing court cases. And so I think that it's not going to get to this level, and they're not going to hear it just to shelve it. I do believe that they're going to make a ruling on it, and I do believe it's going to be a positive thing. And like I said, I do believe what Clover said is it's going to be right. I think this is just the first step. I think that there are going to be others out there. The red flag cases, I think, are something that are heinously unconstitutional for so many reasons. And unfortunately, it sounds bad, but in order for the Supreme Court to hear a case, there has to be a law first. And I know that it sucks that somewhere, down the line, there's going to be a red flag law, and I hate that for you.
Well, and then there has to be
a case. There's not a law somewhere.
Well, then there has to be a challenge, and then there has to be a
right.
dissent from a lower court, or a conflict in lower court.
A conflict, yes, that's be a conflict.
That's what I was fixing to say. A lot of people, they come out, and we got Gorsuch, and we got, I say we, I don't have a mouse in my pocket. Okay, they got Gorsuch, and they got Kavanaugh. And people were like, "Oh, well, they ain't hearing none of these Second Amendment cases." Like, you put Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and immediately the Supreme Court should hear 85 Second Amendment cases in a week. And it's like,
straight down the NFA tomorrow.
Court don't work like that. Okay. Everything's got to go through a process. They have a docket and a schedule, and everything gets done accordingly. And the way you file has to do with that. And there's just so much process that goes on with the court systems. And so, people, and the other thing is people get, because we're inside the echo chamber that we love. I mean, let's face it. But, if you step outside of that and you think about reality in the real world and the way that this nation works and everything else, the Supreme Court can't devote but a small percentage of its time to the Second Amendment. They can't, because there's all kinds of other issues that affect our day-to-day lives that they've got to make decisions on too. There's more stupid laws and regulations and ordinances and other things being passed across this country that encroach on a vast number of liberties. The Second Amendment is just one of them.
Yeah. I got a text in. I want to, he texts a lot. Oh, it's Jacob. Okay. He didn't put his name on there, but it's Jacob. Says, what are your thoughts on open iron sights versus scope shooting? What do you think is the better way to go? I'm a big iron sights guy. I think that there is a place in a useful for some kind of an optic, whether it be a red dot or a scope if you want to go out long range. Obviously, longer range, yes, I think a scope is going to be very valuable. For me, I learned to shoot. I was shooting at 500 yards in the Marine Corps with iron sights, and so I know it can be done. I do think that it will help people be a better shot with a dot or a scope. But I think personally that everyone should learn how to shoot with iron sights, especially if you're going to be using a dot or something, because what if the battery goes out or whatever, and you've never shot iron sights? So yeah, I'm big on iron sights, and I order through the room. I'll start with Kyle. Iron sights or an optic?
Oh man, I say both. You know why? You can never go wrong with an analog option. Your iron sights are your lifeline. Sure, a scope is going to enhance your viability at ranges or maybe your accuracy, as opposed to using a peep sight to a 2 MOA dot. But I say both. There's utility in both, and I think that, like I said, the iron sights are your lifeline if your optic goes down, because anything that's electrically powered or that has glass or something can get scuffed, it can break, the batteries can go out, but your iron sights will never fail you.
That's right. That's right. Snob, what about you? Iron sights or both or what?
Well, both, or depending on the rifle or what, platform you're talking about too. Because I'm anti-optics on a lever action gun, so.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Somebody's never seen Wind River.
I don't even. No, I haven't. But
it's a good movie. It's got Jeremy Renner in it. He's got a Marlin 1895 SBL with a scope on it.
With a scope on it?
Man.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Clover, what say you? Mr. Fudd himself.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, I mean, I'm going to go iron sight. I mean, you've got your your differences at play. You've got distance, of course, you get to an extent, and people that may not have good eyesight or whatever. I get it. Or you're getting out long distance. If you're talking about speed shooting, that's when a lot of red dots on pistols, stuff like that can come into play, of course. But I've proven it over and over. I can't tell you the number of kids, the number of times, and totally agree with what you said. At least starting out, you need to start out, teaching kids iron sight, sight alignment, sight picture, Kentucky windage, all of that good stuff. And all of your on the fly holdover and just all of that different stuff, because you never know when you may have an optic that'll fail. But going back to that, I can't tell you the number of kids before that would come in and they had to have their scope. And we're talking like 50-foot or 25-yard precision small bore, right? And I don't care what kind of scope you use or what kind of rifle you use. If you want to put your money where your mouth is, I'll beat you every time with iron sights. And there's a reason, is because optics magnify your errors, period. They're gonna do it. So when you're talking precision within, like I said, within a certain range, obviously if you're talking 800 or 1,000 yards, you need the scope to be able to see that far. But if you're talking shorter range, the iron sights are going to win the precision game every time.
Yep. Now TJ out there brings up a good point. He says he has to go optics since he's old now and his eyes are going. Absolutely.
Totally.
It's 100% valid. Absolutely. Anything that keeps you in the game, and I'm not against, like I said, I'm not against optics. I love a red dot. Actually, I like a reflex on AR. I love it. I am not a guy that likes any optic or RMR on pistols. I can't stand it for some reason. I've got a buddy of mine that's got it one, and for me, I have a difficult time even finding the damn dot. Because I'm so used to going and focusing on that front sight. Now I'm looking for this dot, and if you're not in a direct spot, I mean, the dot is hard for me to see. So I'm not a big RMR guy on a handgun. That being said,
question: is his dot at the rear? He's got one of the rear mounted, right just in front of the rear sight. Yeah, if it was further forward, he wouldn't have any problem like with a bullseye pistol.
I don't think he has a problem with it. I just have a problem with it. But
I had a problem with mine at first, and now that I've ran it a few thousand rounds with it, practicing, and if you bring your pistol up right every time, that dot's just where your front sight is. You're just looking for your front sight, and you bring it up, and the dot's on your target.
It's the same concept with a pistol as it is with a rifle, right? You put a scope or an optic, maybe it is a red dot on your rifle, and you have medium height rings, and then you change that to high rings. Your head's in a different place. Your cheek's got a different. It's the same way with pistol. When you're used to looking through those irons, and then you put a red dot that raises that up. Now, if you're going to have less of a problem, and it's going to be interesting. Does he got a red dot, the one you're talking about, Ghost? Is it a red dot that does he got suppressor height sights on there, or no? Okay. So if you were used to shooting that,
it's on a 19,
if you were, what I'm saying, if you were co-witness, if you had sights co-witness your red dot,
he's not co-witnessing it.
It would not be near the problem. But when you raise that dot up above your sights, it's going to screw you up.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the suppressor height sights without the dot on it are different whenever you bring it up.
Yeah. So, like when you said, Snob, when you first started shooting it, what was your problem with the dot? Was your problem getting the gun to the proper level, or finding the dot, or what?
Finding the dot at first, just bringing it up on target. You bring it up, and I'm out of alignment.
Elevation is usually the key.
I'm just out of alignment. But once you get used to drawing it and bringing it up, your dot's just on the target, right? As you're focusing on your front sight and you're just seeing a dot on the target.
And it's not optimal obviously for carry and stuff like that, right? But if you get that dot further to the front, like all the bullseye pistols I have that have optics, that dot is as far forward as it can possibly go. Well, so that emulates, like you say, looking at that front sight because it's further forward and it's a lot easier to pick up.
You're laughing, Kyle. What's up?
The greatest iron sights ever devised by man are the diopters.
Yeah, that is sweet.
Yeah, those are nice.
I'll take those over a red dot any day.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to what you kind of grew up with, or what your some people, there are going to be a lot of people, especially maybe this young, going back full circle here, some of the young 20-year-old people that are buying their first ARs and all that, and they're probably buying some sort of an optic to go with their brand new AR. So, most of the modern day ARs, unless you get an A2 front sight or whatever, don't have a front sight. So you almost have to have a dot on there, and that's how they're going to learn. And I guess that's okay as long as they're shooting. But I really wish that, like you said, there's a great reason to have a dot or a scope, but I think that if you've never learned how to shoot with a front sight iron sights, especially on an AR or a rifle or anything, then like you said, it's just going to be one of those things where if something goes wrong, you're kind of screwed.
And there's another point to be made with iron sights as well, and that's a confidence level. How many times have you had a rifle or you had a pistol, you had something with an optic on it, and you've been out there and you're just all over the paper, and you're like, what's going on? Is my optic messed up? Or is this the rifle? Or is this the pistol? Right? If it's the iron sights and you're all over the place, either you really suck, or the rifles or the firearms crap.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, something major wrong. You don't have that question of, is it this optic that's screwing up on me?
Right. Yeah. Mel the Nut says red dots are great on a pistol, but you got to train with it to use it well. First time you shoot a red dot on a pistol, you're going to suck with it. Yeah, like I said, for me, I don't think that I would ever personally put a dot on any of my handguns. I don't see that happening with me. I don't know. It's just something that I've shot enough of them to realize that I don't want to have to work that hard to get good at something that I don't enjoy. And that sounds bad. I just like bringing the sights up and going and all that. Now an AR, I actually have grown to love dots or optics in general on AR platforms. I do enjoy that. But yeah, with a handgun, I just don't see myself in a, let me ask you this, Snob. Now Sarge up there says he's experimenting with carrying a red dot. That is your carry gun, or is that not your carry? Okay.
No, this is on my Palmer 80.
Carrying a dot.
Yes, I'm very much considering getting a carry gun with a dot soon and very soon. But I enjoy shooting this, and I would like to get even better at it. So every time I draw it up, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
I know it's going to be there. But yes, I will eventually be carrying a red dot.
Is that a Hollow Sun on there? What is that on there?
Yeah, I've got a Hollow Sun on this one, 507C.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff there. But yeah, I can't honestly, I can't ever see myself. Now, if I want to go get back into sports shooting, IDPA, we don't use optics, but if I do USPSA, I think everyone uses a dot there. But I could see something like a race gun throwing a little dot on there, but I don't ever see myself putting a dot on a carry gun. Once again, it just might be one of those things I'm just not comfortable with it, and I don't want to put something on my hip that I'm not comfortable with for self-defense. But I don't know. That's not me. You're smirking, Kyle. What's up?
I just keep thinking about seeing pictures of those Desert Eagles that have the magnified optics on the front end of the.
Well, if you're gonna have a Deagle, I mean that's a whole different thing. I mean, if you're gonna get a Deagle,
why not add a few more ounces to it?
You might as well pimp it out. It's already heavy enough as it is,
Just need a foregrip. There you go.
There you go.
My wife needed a foregrip when she shot that Deagle. She wasn't very pleased with it.
So we're talking about accessories and stuff, and talking about these lasers. Do you guys remember the lasers? I mean, you rap about them now, but it's really come a long way. Or dots, I mean, lasers and dots, I guess. But do you remember the lasers from like back in the 80s that were literally like the size of a Pringles can? And
like 60 cell battery?
It had a cord literally that plugged into it, and you had to carry the battery in your pocket or something.
Like the HK projectors for the MP5s. I remember those.
Wow. If you ever want to see one in a pretty decent movie, it's Tango and Cash. But at the first, he's got one of those big monstrosities on his revolver, and it's crazy.
And those were high tech, man.
They were back in the day. Yeah.
Game changers.
I think maybe even in Cobra, I think in that movie with Sylvester Stallone, I think maybe he had one. But.
And now I've got a bodyguard with a built-in laser that's tiny.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, and I've got a bodyguard and a shield with that little crimson trace that's built in. And for what it is, the crimson trace is actually, what the hell was that? Do that again.
That's the HK projector.
Yeah, see the size of a freaking.
Holy hell.
It's a mag light sitting on top of it, pretty much.
Basically.
So yeah, that's I don't even know where I was going to
My
go.
first experience was a red dot. I had one on a 22 mag when I was a kid that wasn't even, and this would have been late 80s, early 90s, but it wasn't even powered or anything. It just had a dot in it. I guess it was some kind of scope. I don't even remember. And had like a big,
probably like an etched reticle optic.
Yeah.
It was probably something like an etched reticle optic. This one is actually with a Vortex Spitfire. It's not magnified, but it has a etched black dot and a ring around it just as a backup, I think, which is nice.
Okay.
This thing had a big old glass cone on the front of it, and I think I dropped it and broke it at some point in life. It was a terrible design.
Well, like I said, what was a terrible design now was groundbreaking back then, so
Look at the old 8-point red dots.
Yeah. Let's see here. Mel the Nut says iron sights are used in combat because they are all weather. Even Marines have a hard time breaking them. We can break them though. You can break them, but you've got to really try. But yeah, that going back to the whole iron sight argument is, I am all for optics and dots and all that, but I think that everyone should learn on iron sights. That's just me.
So all my kids learned to shoot on a break action 22 with iron sights.
There you go. As a matter of fact, I want to say that in boot camp now, I was watching a video on Marine boot camp, and they're even using optics at boot camp for qualification. Like they're teaching them right off the bat with a scope. And I'm just like, that just doesn't seem right to me, but I guess times have changed.
Something for the guys that are watching that may be new to the community. Don't Appleseed shoots require iron sights?
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're looking to become a marksman or to learn some of the fundamentals of marksmanship, for those of you that are watching, I definitely recommend checking out the Appleseed shoots.
Yeah,
very great way to build up your skill set with firearms, especially shooting at a distance.
That's a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. Did you ever use that, Clover, when you were teaching the kiddos?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Did they enjoy that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Sometimes you never know. Sometimes you don't know what they're going to enjoy, what's going to turn them away. But I thought that's a great idea. I never even thought about that, but that's a great idea.
For the most part, I'm going to be honest with you. If anybody was pulling triggers or pulling strings, the kids were pretty happy usually. So it really didn't matter.
What's the I'm going to go through the room here and say, what's the craziest customization that you have done to any of your guns? I'll start with Snob. Besides the high point, is it entirety? You put a red dot on the side of the high point, but is that the craziest shit you've done to a gun? Probably.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think you can hardly top this.
By the way, have you sent that to High Point? Do they know this exists?
Yeah, I tagged them in a post, and I actually think they reposted it once.
Nice. Kyle, what about you? What's the craziest kind of customization you put on a gun?
Oh, as far as accessories
or paint jobs or anything that
you got to type a side. You got to top a side on the side with a rainbow paint job.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. All my firearms have been purpose driven, so I put a lot of forethought into the coatings or sights, whatever I'm putting on them. But I do sometimes do builds for friends of the family or friends of my dad or people that I meet that just have seen stuff that I have and want me to build something for them. I had a guy who asked me to put a maul on his AR, and I asked him what type of nods he was using with them, and he asked me what nods were.
Okay.
So
how'd that go with you?
I just kind of
give it back to him.
Yeah, I did exactly like this. I kind of looked down and was fidgeting with the upper that had the maul on it. I was just thinking to myself, you have so much money to throw at this rifle, but you're not going to invest into what literally amounts to a superpower, and specifically a superpower that you need to have this accessory on your AR.
Well, Some people just shouldn't have money. They just shouldn't have money.
Oh, you're starting to sound like Bernie Sanders now.
Yeah, well, no, I said some people just shouldn't have money.
Some people just don't know how to spend it.
If you can't handle the responsibility of spending money on a good rifle, then just don't have the money, because there are people out here that can really use that money for a really cool rifle. Just saying. By the way, I need you to build me something. We'll talk. I still need to get a kite and defense rifle from you. So we'll talk
soon. I've got the first prototype being finished up at the painters right now, and then the 9x19 parts, which are going to be the production models with the 53 round magazine. Those are gonna probably hit. I'm hoping around Q2, Q3, 2020.
Okay, all right. So
I need to get these prototype parts done so that I'm not delivering a product that's gonna basically do like the PSA AKV9 did with the public beta testing.
Yeah. Well, anytime that you're ready to go, so I'll be looking 6 to 9 months from now. I'll be waiting.
I might be at SHOT if you're going to be there. So
yeah, we're all going to be at SHOT. So why are you going to SHOT again? I know you quit going to SHOT, but what forced you to go back?
The product that we have just discussed.
Okay,
maybe we'll see.
Well, if you're there, we'll go out to eat.
Yeah, if not, I'll probably be at Kalash Bosch in March, I think, or Kalash Bash. Sorry, I have a tendency to do that.
Now, here was the thing that G went to a few weeks ago over in Vegas called Red October. Are you familiar with that?
I am. It's put on by Rifle Dynamics. I have a lot of really great friends. Shout out to Angel of Verdun. If you haven't followed her on Instagram yet, she's the only gun bunny, and I know that she's going to hate that I say that. She's the only gun bunny that I will follow. She is active duty service member, and she's kick ass. But she went there this year, I think, and she's got a great Rifle Dynamics built rifle.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of good things about it. I know who runs it. I saw some pictures and videos from the events. I haven't gone yet, but I will soon.
Yeah, you're not too far. Now, let me ask you, being in Colorado, have you been over to Dragon Man's place yet?
I haven't. I don't know who you're talking about also.
You don't know who Dragon Man is?
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. You're literally like within shouting distance of heaven. Google Dragon Man. The dude has like the greatest collection of firearms possibly in the world, like flamethrowers,
military museum.
It's unbelievable, and it's in Colorado. I think it's in Colorado Springs, maybe.
Yeah, it's Colorado Springs.
Yeah, the Springs is a gorgeous area. It's also it's pretty conservative. I like it. I have some good friends down there, but I'll have to look them up.
You need to go Dragon Man.
I think G went to the last tour of the year, so it'll be spring before he opens back up.
Yeah, but like November, he goes like April through November or something like that in tours. And their tours, like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like it's just Google Dragon Man and you'll just go ape shit on it.
Sounds good to me. Appreciate
it. Yeah. All right. Well, we've had a good time. I want to start going through the room. Snob, I want you to bring in and tell everybody where you are, what projects you've got going on, anything that you want to plug or anything like that. Anyone you're shilling for these days?
Just myself this week, so you know.
All right.
But no, I'm gonna put out I just put out a video on a fancy little handmade wood mag loader that a guy sent me home with from Tulsa, and then I'm fixing to drop a video on a Polymer 80 sometime later this week, or maybe the first of next week, actually, because I'm lazy. But yeah, come check me out over there and on Instagram. Will do. Kyle, what about you? Besides that Bison, anything else you kind of got working on in the back?
Yeah, I've got some things that are lined up after I get done with the Bison. I tend to like tackle things one thing at a time until I go through to completion. I'll come up with a new idea and I'll just put it to the side until later. One of the things that I'm working on is basically copying and disseminating for free for people with 3D printers and that, the Magpul FMG9 chassis for Glocks. Currently it's designed around Gen 3 kits, but I'm probably going to update it for the current gen. But that's just something you can print. If you want something that's concealable that folds up, should you ever decide that you want or need something like that, you can print it up. I'll have specs for the springs and all that. It'll be good to go. And then I got my hands on some parts for the OC4, or is it the OC or the OTS 14 Groza, which is the bullpup variant of the AKS 74U in 9x39. I'm going to work on reverse engineering that and offering a conversion kit for people that have cranks like the SLR 106Us or whatever you may have.
That's interesting. Now, I don't mind the Gen 3 because the Gen 3 is my favorite. All my Glocks are Gen 3s. I love the Gen 3. It just fits my hand. I don't mind the angle grip. I don't mind the finger wells. I don't mind. That's how I like it. So it works out well. So I have to talk to you about that. But thanks for coming on. Make sure you go check him out over on Instagram under Chitin Defense. And if you're listening, it's CHITIN Defense. So go check out Chitin Defense. And if you're watching, it's right there. But if you're listening in podcast, they can't see us. So it is CHITIN Defense. So go check him out. Thanks for going on, buddy. Clover, what you got going on? Are you doing anything, or are you just kind of?
Well, I got gizzarded on the whole customizing,
Go
modification
ahead.
thing.
I didn't want to bring you up because I know that you're working on a project, but I didn't know if you want to.
I am. That's what I was going to say. Is that's going to change really soon? Yeah, that's going to change really soon. I'm going to give a couple an answer, but it's going to change really soon because
I'm
working on something that the patrons over on Patreon, they've been getting a little taste of behind the scenes and what's going on. They will eventually know before anybody else, but I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So stay tuned for that. As far as me, I mean, in modifications and stuff, I'm a really big fan of using rifle length, like stock rifle length handguards, right? Like the Colt handguards or the old M16A1 triangle guards or something like that on a 16-inch barrel or even a shorter barrel with a carbine length gas system, and that can be really interesting in getting the gas system up underneath the handguards and set screwing the original A1, A2 sight frame in and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. That's probably the craziest up until this new project.
Yeah, I personally like carbine length. I like the carbine length in general. As a matter of fact,
well, it gives an illusion if you run longer
carbine length.
If you run longer handguards on a shorter barrel, then it gives the illusion that it's a shorter barrel. It's not really shorter, but it kind of gives that illusion.
Aesthetically, it looks like it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what you're saying. I guess I've always kind of gone with. I like the looks of the carbine length. Let's see what this text is before we go. See if it's something we want to bring up. Go down another rabbit hole. All right. So, yeah, this will be a great one to end on. All right. Great one to end on. I'm going to run through the room. Random question. If you could only keep one gun from your entire collection, what would it be?
Oh, man.
Snob, what about you? I know this is a tough one. One gun in your collection.
I was going to say my 4006, but I'm going to go with my Model 94 Winchester.
Okay. All right. Kyle, what about you?
Honestly, I would have to go with the 553. Just Swiss precision. It's NATO compatible with stocks, and there are parts all over the place.
There you go. Clove?
That's a good question, man. Probably that's tough, man. You're talking about, you don't realize how many I have.
You have
maybe the first. I don't know how else to explain this. The first 300 blackout SBR I ever built. Probably it. It's just too versatile with what all you can do with it.
Sure. For me, man, I'm probably gonna have to go with my Smith MP Sport AR because I've got that dialed in exactly where I want it. I've got everything that I could possibly want to do to that thing. I've got done on it now, so it's got drop-in triggers. It's got everything that I want. It's all basically a shell of an M&P Sport, and it's basically all gutted and got everything in there that I could possibly want to get done to it. So
it's hard to choose a pistol in that situation. You know,
it is. It is. I mean, obviously, everyone knows if I was a pistol, I'd probably say my 92, just because I love my 92. But I would have to go with my AR. The one sport that I've got completely tricked out. I would have to go with that one just because I finally got it where I want it.
Right.
And a lot of money later and a lot of time and patience because I don't have the money to go buy all of it at once. I had to piece the barrel out. I had to piece all the stuff out to where I finally got it, and now it's there. And so, yeah, I would say that because it's taking the longest to get where I want to for sure. Holy crap. Damn, the texts keep coming in. All right, so this is for Snob, maybe. This is for Snob about Cerakoting. After a sandblast and Cerakote, will your serial numbers still be visible or they need to be restamped?
I've never had any that weren't visible afterwards.
Yep.
They should be deep enough because Cerakote is so thin. They should be engraved in it deep enough that it doesn't affect it.
The only time I've seen a potential issue with that, and I've seen it on multiple types of finishes, if you're talking a really old firearm that's got a lot of wear there.
But yeah, you might with that, with a really old one that's worn down a lot.
Well, and a lot of old ones weren't cut that deep anyway.
Mm-hmm. Those old brass plates that are on the side of those rifles, they were masked. Just get them out. So they probably weren't stamped on that brass real heavy either.
Well, I don't know when that regulation, but there is a regulation, I think, on the depth that those have to be, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I did do a Taurus G2 or something once, and it has the serial number in the same place as like the Glock on the bottom. And I went ahead and masked it because it didn't feel like it was very deep. It may have been. I was concerned, so I just masked it to be safe.
Yeah.
God bless Taurus.
Right. So thanks everybody for watching live. We enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for texting your questions in. If you're watching in replay or listening in podcast, if you have any comments or questions that you want to ask, go ahead and use that comment section below. We'll make sure we get them asked. And if they're for Snob or Clover or Kyle, I'll make sure those questions are to them and they can reply to you as well. So thanks for always watching. Thanks for always supporting. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I enjoyed it. It was a good weekend, and I hope everybody was safe. Now it's the craziness of the Christmas holiday, and I hope everyone was safe after Black Friday and hope there's no injuries. I've heard some people were getting into fights and all that, which is crazy to me. I just don't understand that. I do most of my shopping online, so it is what it is. But you guys have anything else you want to say before we close out of here?
Just remember, Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh my God, you're one of those. You're one of those. All right, guys, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Semper Fi.